Hello, I'm Stan Smith, and here is yet another crazy art sculpture idea. I would really be quite curious to know at what point you realize what it is. Let me know in the comments. Here is a hint. It's two things. I will explain what and why here in just a minute. And I realize one of the things will be a lot harder to know depending on what part of the world you live in. By the way, I'm from the United States. This is another hint. And I'm guessing the second thing will depend on how well you know the human anatomy, in particular the cardiovascular system. So, if you're familiar with Texas, you might have got that one right away. I used this actual map of Texas for my outline. Now, the second thing I'm guessing is much harder to figure out, especially when it's forced into the shape of Texas. It's an anatomical heart, which brings up the question, why? Well, of course, it's for the 29th annual El Corazon Art Show here in Dallas, Texas. Duh! I will be using these paper templates to help me in cutting all this out of metal and then forming and welding it into a wall sculpture that I hope will be accepted into the art show that is scheduled for February 2024. Please consider subscribing and hit that like button. Okay, so I got my templates laid out on my piece of metal, kind of nested together so I'm not wasting too much material. And by the way, this is cold rolled carbon steel, and I think it's actually 17 gauge, which is kind of peculiar. Usually gauges go in like 14, 16, 18, but it measures like 56,000, so that's technically 17 gauge. But I kind of wish it was a little thinner, but this piece of material was given to me, so I'm not complaining. So I'll just outline these onto the metal, and then we'll start cutting them out. Okay, so now what? I'm thinking I'm going to start with the biggest piece and add this main artery that comes off here. If you remember on the picture, add this piece of tubing and do some pounding and shaping on it and get it a little down the road, and then we'll go from there. So here's what, we'll add this piece on, and then I guess and work with this one as we're doing it. But first I need to do a little bit of shaping using my 4-pound rawhide mallet. And like I said earlier, if this metal was a little more thinner, it would be way easier to shape. But this is a good exercise, so it's all good. Oh yeah, if my wife asks, these are not the blankets she's looking for. Is it just a little ironic that it looks like I'm giving this giant heart CPR? Okay, for these large arteries, I think, I'm going to be using this EMT electrical metal tubing, which of course always comes galvanized, so I sanded off that so it'll, by the way, I haven't mentioned my plan is to do a rust patina on this whole thing, so I got to get that galvanizing off. So I'm thinking I'm going to cut it off here, but I want to bend it first while I got some leverage, and I want it just a slight gradual bend in it, so I'm going to try heating it up and see what happens. I've done it before, but this is kind of a larger piece, thicker, but I think it'll work. And then we'll bend this piece here to the radius of this and weld that on. And then we'll start working with our, try to fit it with this piece. So let's give that a try. So you can kind of get the gist of it. I'm going to pound on this some more and then weld that on there, and we'll see where we're at after that. So here's what all that was for. I know it doesn't look like much yet, but I have high hopes for this project. I hope you can come back and see how it turns out in part 2. And then we'll see if I get in the El Corazon art show. And if I do, I'll shoot some video of that as well. Till next time, God bless.